I know a lot of people are going to react differently to Laurie's speech. I thought it was tremendous, actually. I don't hate Laurie as much as many people do or did, and I certainly don't agree with her philosophically for what she was saying. However, I thought the writing of that speech was fantastic, and I thought her delivery was equally as good. I thought it was a really well thought out, well paced, and well delivered argument, regardless of the fact that I disagree with it.
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with Jordan. You can't get behind that philosophy. It's just not in human nature to root for someone who's ready to pack it in. But definitely delivery and writing, I like it.
Here's my take on this scene in conjunction with the others, and I wasn't on episode 1 and 2 to kind of expand on this either. But I really think this episode and the two previous almost could have been condensed down into 2 episodes. It feels to me a little bit, and this scene kind of accentuated it, given the other scenes we've seen in the farm dealing with Carl. That it's almost like it's spinning its wheels a little bit, and that we're not moving things forward enough. I mean, Sophia's been gone for like 4 days, and they're still looking. Carl's been shot, and we're having kind of these conversations over and over again. I think Rick needs to man the hell up because he's and maybe this is intentional, but Shane is kind of taking that role. Shane is, especially after what happens in this episode, is kind of becoming more of the center and the focal point for the team, it seems, because Rick just can't seem to get it together and harden himself and do what he needs to do. So I agree with what you guys are saying, and again, like we say a lot of times, even a mediocre episode of The Walking Dead is still better than 90% of the crap that's on television. But I just think they might have been able to tighten this up a little bit. And I'm not saying that we need to have action and zombies in every scene and every episode, but it just seems like things could have just picked up a little bit.
I agree with you in your comments about these 2 episodes needing to be one. I also agree with the spinning the wheels description. Like I said, I was dangerously close to being bored. I was definitely bored last week. I was dangerously close to being bored this week. These last 2 episodes should have been one. I would agree. However, in your comments about Rick, speaking as a father whose children on occasion have been very sick, nothing else matters at that point. When you're watching your 1-year-old child fly away in a care flight helicopter, taking her to the nearest hospital, you don't give a crap about anything else that's going on in your world. That happened to me when my younger daughter was 1, and I didn't give a damn about anything. So I can kind of see and understand why Rick is, as you so eloquently put, not manning up at the moment, because that's his flesh and blood who's close to death. Was it a bit melodramatic? Yeah, it was, again, like last week. But I would say that I kind of understand what Rick's going through, or I can imagine what Rick's going through, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, I guess from my perspective, and just kind of being, not with my kids, but just, with my wife, time and again, having a couple of health scares that one of them was pretty serious.
I didn't mean that the health scares with my child were any different than yours with your wife. I was not making light of that at all.
No, I didn't take it. But here's where I'm going with that. Okay. In my situation, from my perspective, I had to be steady, and I had to, I couldn't sit around and wallow and feel sorry for myself or feel grief or anything else. I had to be the steady one so that, the kids weren't afraid and that other people weren't freaking out and afraid. And maybe it's just I'm putting too much of my own personal experience in it, but and maybe I'm trying to project myself onto Rick's character, but if I were in his shoes, I would, as a person, I would have tried to be more solid and stand my ground and not let as much emotion show for the sake of others, if not for myself, if that makes sense.
Let's not forget, though, that Rick has now given 2 blood transfusions in a very short amount of time, and it's just given a 3rd. I mean, I think that covers a lot of issues with his thinking. I mean, regardless of whether you agree with him, he's low on blood.
Right, but I mean, this was, and if this wasn't going on prior to that, then I would say, yeah, you're probably right. But it just seems like we've had too much of this Rick. And again, I think that part of the other thing is being a little biased in the comic and seeing how much I think stronger overall of a character he is at this point in the book. I think is biasing me a little bit as well.
I agree with you 100%.
I said to Russ earlier, as we chatted a little bit and then said we better save it for the show, that this is Daryl and Shane's television show right now. Regardless,
100%, totally.
Right. Regardless of, we can definitely find reasons why Rick would be in the state that he's in right now. And I'm not disagreeing with Jordan's explanations at all. But the fact of it is, we're used to hero Rick, and we're getting hero Shane and Daryl. And that's not even a complaint. That's just fact right now.
One other thing to talk about real quick with Laurie, I was really also impressed with how the writers brought back their decisions they made in episode 6 of season 1. I thought it was important that they didn't leave the CDC behind and that easy opt out, that the suicide solution. They didn't leave that behind and never think about it again. I like the fact that because things got worse since they made the decision to live, that Laurie is thinking back to, hey, we had that out. I like that she's bringing it up again. She's dealing with it like not necessarily rational, but like a real human being would. Did I make the right decision just 2-3 days ago?
And it also kind of gives credence to why Andrea is pissed at Dale.
Right, exactly.
It kind of fits in. It's not directly related, but same idea. He's making the choices for her, and maybe that would have been better.
But to head back to the Shane and Daryl show, or at least the Shane show for now, Shane, I noticed they split ways. Both of them injure their legs in their escapes through the various parts of the school. So now Shane is outside. He's trying to get away from all the zombies, but he keeps getting surrounded by them. Luckily, he's kind of on the other side of a chain link fence from the majority, so he's able to pick off the few around him. But he meets back up with Otis. Otis saves his life real quick. They start running away. They're both limping. Zombies are catching up. And as Sarah points out in her recap, they're definitely both limping. They're definitely both in pain. Things do not look good for either of them.
How did Otis hurt himself?
When he jumped off the collapsible bleachers?
Oh, that's right.
I mean, it was difficult to tell whether he just tripped, but I think it was a good, 10-foot drop?
Yeah, he's a heavy man.
I don't know when the last time is that any of you jumped off of something high up off the ground, but
onto a basketball court.
It hurts. I mean, for some stupid reason, I jumped off a roof, which was only 9 or 10 feet off the ground, only like last year. I was 41 last year, and I'm thinking I can do this, but it hurt like hell. And obviously, jumping off those bleachers, they were taller than that. And then Shane jumping out of the window, which is a couple of stories high. I mean, that's ridiculous.
That was great. That scene, I think we kind of passed over it, but he's trying to lower himself out of the window real carefully and get hang as low as he can, before he drops, and then that zombie pops out of the window. I almost screamed out loud.
It's a very cheap jump scare, but it was very effective for sure.
Well, there was another one that's coming up in your recap that got me, and I literally jumped. I should have expected it, but it totally got me. And you know what? That's refreshing actually to feel that way because after seeing the show week after week and the movies we've seen, we get jaded to those kinds of cheap scares. I think, but so actually being scared in that manner was really pretty kind of cool.
So after that scene, we catch back up with Daryl and Carol. Carol, remember, she was crying in the RV. Dale's on top keeping watch as normal, because it seems he doesn't really do much of anything else, although it is a very, very useful skill. At first, he's contemplating smoking, but he's interrupted by Carol, and he decides he's going to go walk around and he needs Carol to keep watch.
Yeah, did we catch... Somebody was asking, why exactly did he need to go away? Was it directly after? Did she mention to him that Daryl was with Andrea and then
I
he
thought
left?
he knew that.
I'm gonna look back at that because
Oh, the recap says Carol says he doesn't need to worry about Andrew because she's with Daryl.
okay, so I'm guessing that's exactly what he's worried about.
See, I'm thinking he's not worried about it. I'm thinking he's just worried, because she said something like she'll be okay or whatever, and Dale's like, what are you talking about? And she basically was saying Andrea will be okay. I kind of got the feeling that Carol was saying, I get it, Dale. I know how you feel about Andrea, and she's gonna be fine. And just the fact that she said that made him start worrying even more, and just wanted to be as close to the situation as possible, just in case he needed help or whatever.
There's three things. One, I think you're exactly right, Brad. I think he needs to think about that. I think he wants to go have a cigarette, maybe away from Carol because she's kind of annoying. And I think also, later, not spoil things, if he comes back with an object, I think he might have been going to wherever he had stashed that object to get that as well.
I don't recall that, so that'd be
Well, I'll bring it up when he comes back. But
Yeah.
definitely, it was a little weird him like smelling the pack of cigarettes. But
yeah, but he didn't pull the cigarettes out either when he walked out there to.
well, but we didn't see what he did once he walked out there. I mean, he might have wanted to get a little bit farther away so she didn't smell it or something. I don't know. Maybe she's a very big anti-smoker or something.
I think we're reaching a little bit now.
Probably. Back to Daryl and Andrea in the woods, they come across a tent and there's a zombie hanging from a tree with a suicide note tacked right there that says, "Got bit, fever hit, world gone, might as well quit."
Oh, you know what? Earlier I said something about evidence that whether when you die, doesn't matter if you're bit or not, you're going to turn into a zombie. I had forgotten about that poem, and he actually said he got bit. So when I was saying that, I was thinking, okay, the guy that hung himself in the tree just hung himself because he knew there was no way out and he didn't want to live in this world. I had actually forgotten that he had said he got bit. So my theory, or my example of that being proof that when you die, you'll be zombified anyway, doesn't matter if you got bit, that blows that out of the window.
So they have a discussion about Andrea wants him to kill the zombie, take him down. He doesn't want to waste the crossbow bolt. But he asks her the question of whether, now that she sees what it's like for someone who opted out, although I don't think his argument really held up because that's not a person who opted out so much as got bit and just saved himself from attacking other people. But regardless, he asks Andrea whether or not she wants to live now. She says she'll trade him an answer for an arrow. So he shoots the zombie. She says she still doesn't know whether she wants to live, and he says it was a waste of an arrow or a crossbow bolt.
Our Twitter friend Lynn had a pretty cool comment at this point in the show. She said, quite a difference of character from Rick, feeling so bad and wanting to put the bicycle girl out of her misery, and Daryl ready to just walk away from the zombie hanging by its neck because he didn't want to waste an arrow.
The zombie who I love the design of, before he was zombified, the zombies came and ate away his legs after he hung himself, which was totally gross, but a really cool detail.
Yeah, and Andrea throws up. Did we mention that? That was pretty
I know
cool.
that.
Yeah.
It's just very
I love
interesting.
that scene. I mean, just the fact, again, you get some more, I guess, dose of reality to it. It's like, okay, we know nothing about this guy or anything about his situation or whatever, but the fact that he just hung himself and then he ended up turning into a zombie anyway, and he's got, I mean, who knows how long he's been hanging up there. And that's what kind of made me chuckle a little bit. Is this poor schmuck has been, hanging for, months at this point, possibly longer. I just thought it was a really cool scene. And then I thought it was a great moment between Daryl and Andrea as well.
Are we feeling anything between the two of them, possibly in the future?
A little bit.
I wasn't.
I wasn't either.
I wasn't at all. I think I don't know. I can't explain why I wasn't, but I just didn't get that.
I can explain why you weren't, because there wasn't anything there.
Well, what I did was I probably put two and two together, but my first two was wrong because I really felt that Dale left the RV when he heard she was with Daryl. So that made me think, oh, if those two get together, Dale's going to have a serious problem with Daryl. So it kind of escalated from that line of thinking. But, you never know. We don't know Daryl at all. He's a new non-comic character, so you never know.
Exactly. So we head back to the farmhouse where Patricia is sewing up T-Dog's arm. She asks where the antibiotics he got, where they came from, and Glenn says they're from the time Merle Dixon got the clap, he had some left over, and she says that Merle's clap was the best thing that ever happened to T-Dog, which was funny. Glenn gets a little skated, she walks outside, and Maggie comes over and talks to him, and she asks him if he's praying, and he says, yeah, but it's the first time they discuss whether God exists, and why all these prayers are going unanswered, etc. And it's a nice little conversation between the two of them. It's nice to see them have a scene together. I thought her accent slipped a couple times. One time when she said God, and one time when she said another word, I forget what it was, but you definitely heard her accent coming through. Otherwise, I thought she had a pretty solid accent. That's a good question. It was hard for me to place. Let me look up her.
We heard her at the panel. She's British, I would say, right, Russ?
I was gonna say maybe Welsh, actually.
It seemed English to me at the time, but it could be from a different country. But
it sounded. I did think she was going in and out, but it sounded like she had a drawl, southern drawl for a while, and then she didn't have any accent whatsoever. I didn't hear any British in there. I'm still impressed at Andrew Lincoln's ability to keep his British accent out of it.
Actually, and I think we might talk about this when we talked about when she was cast. She was born in Philadelphia and lived in Cherry Hill Township, New Jersey, which is about 15 minutes from where I'm recording right now. But she grew up in the United Kingdom, so
okay.
So that would explain the quite heavy accent that she has in real life. But yeah, I thought in general, her accent was very effective, except for the one or two times where it faded out. But whatever. Then we go back to Rick and Lori, and they discuss. Rick's all excited that the one thing Carl talked about when he woke up was how beautiful the deer was, and so he makes this the crux of his argument for why letting Carl die would not be the answer because Carl was so fixated on the beautiful things in life and not the death and the zombie. Like I said before, I don't agree with Lori. I agree with Rick in spirit, but that was a stupid argument.
Yeah, I mean, Carl is just their hope in general. I mean, you have two parents and a young kid. I guess you're hoping that you can make this right somehow for him. I guess the delivery of that message was a little bit off here. And at this point, I'm tired of seeing Rick sit around all episode. It's kind of like I get it, but all right. At this point, we've been doing it for like 40 minutes now, and everybody's looking at the clock going, man, I can't believe there's only 15 minutes left of the show. So yeah, that's where I was at with that.
So after they have this discussion, Herschel comes in, he's checking Carl's blood pressure, and he says, look, it's really bad. We need to make a decision right now. Either we do the surgery without the supplies that Shane knows when to get, or he's not going to make it. So they decide, let's take the chance. We're going to do the surgery. And right before they're about ready to start cutting into Carl, Shane shows up in the truck with the supplies without Otis, and Shane says that Otis simply didn't make it, and they decide to go in and start the surgery.
At this point, we didn't see what happened to Otis at all.
So something's up.
Right.
I thought maybe I fell asleep for like a minute and a half or something and just didn't realize it.
Yeah, it's funny.
Had they already asked each other how many you got? I got one left. Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Actually,
Yeah, they
well, they had two discussions about bullets. They had one on top of the bleachers, and they had one very shortly before the major scene goes down.
Well, they had discussed it at first. We saw them say, how many do you have? I got one. Yeah, me too. And then we cut back to the house, and then Shane arrives. So we saw the beginning of that scene once.
Okay. Then
later on, we cut back to them, albeit from different angles. We see them doing the same thing. How many you got? I got one. Yeah, I got one left too. So, okay. I'm just trying to get it in my head. We actually did see Shane and Otis the whole episode they were in a precarious situation, but when we last saw them, the last thing we saw before we saw Shane arrive at the house was them being chased by a bunch of zombies.
Yes. We then cut back to Dale. He's back on top of the RV. and he sees Daryl and Andrea comes back, and this is the object I was talking about, Brad. He gives Andrea back her gun, and he apologizes for taking away her decisions and her choices. They were hers to make, not his, and he asks her to forgive him. She says she's trying, but she's not sure, and she walks away.
Oh, I thought you said he left and went walking to go find the object.
Well, I was saying he left, and next time we see him, he has the object. So you could make the assumption that he had it stashed in another car, so she wouldn't find it or something. I have no idea, but it was just something that he could have done to pass the time.
Gotcha.
Back at the farmhouse, this is where we have another big scene between Maggie and Glenn. She's talking about the people she's lost, how long she's known Otis, as we're talking about John. She says her stepmother died, her stepbrother died. All this fits pretty closely with the comics, I think, if I remember correctly. Although I don't remember if they were stepmother and step siblings, but regardless. And this time Herschel comes out. He tells Rick, he tells Lori Carl seems stable. Looks like everything worked. And at this point, he's going to have to go break the news about Otis to Patricia because they kept it from her, so she'll be able to help Herschel with the surgery. And in the background, as Lori goes to see Carl, we can definitely see Patricia collapse. She starts crying. They didn't really focus on it too much, which is probably a good decision. They focus more on Shane and Lori and stuff. But Lori goes in the bedroom to see Carl. Shane follows her. She asks him to stay, and he does for a few seconds, but then he leaves.
Yeah, I don't want to comment on that last part until we do the ending.
Well, I'll definitely leave my comment of what I thought at the time, which is, man, poor guy. He just risked his life. He was the only one to get back. He still doesn't feel like he can be part of this family because of some of the other things he's done. Doesn't it suck to be Shane? And then, of course, the rest of the episode happens. But it was a nice sucker punch there on the part of the writers, I thought.
This scene, when he comes back and he explains what happened to Otis, I think two things. One, I think it elevated my respect for John Bernthal as an actor because I think he did a really good job of playing somebody playing that he was concerned and he's tore up about something. And at the time, I knew, okay, we didn't see what happened, so something happened other than what he's telling us. And I didn't know the specifics of it. I didn't know if he just said, screw you, I'm out, or what. We'll get to that in a minute. But it also just elevated my liking for Shane as a character in the show. And if you'd have told me last season, about fourth or fifth episode, that Shane would be becoming one of my favorite characters in the show, I would have probably laughed and said you were crazy. But this episode really, like I said, turned the corner for me with Shane, and I'm really, really liking what they're doing with him and Bernthal's portrayal of the character and how he's stepping up and I think becoming unhinged. And I'm curious to see where they go from here with that. But I was just really impressed with the fact that this is taking this turn for me personally watching the show.
Like I said, I guess it was last week or week before. We didn't get a chance to know Shane really in the comics, so I'm still not sure if I like Shane or not as a human being. As a character, he's definitely one of the most interesting characters on the show, and I like any part of the story that has to do with him. I may not agree with some of his morals and ethics, but he is one of the more interesting characters, definitely, on the show, and I'm glad that we were able to have him, whereas we didn't in the comic.
So after he leaves the room, Maggie comes, she gives Shane some clean clothes. They're going to be a big for him, though, because they were Otis's old clothes. He goes up to the bathroom to shower and get changed. Apparently they have some type of generator on the farm of some type, for sure. We talked about it last episode, but they definitely have power because he takes a shower, there's electric lights, he uses an electric clipper set. So he kind of raids the bathroom to find the hair clipper set. We see on the side of his head, kind of the top side, he's got some type of wound to his skull.
I thought that he was bit.
I
really thought that he got bit, and I was like, ooh, it's a small wound, so they could play this out for quite a while.
It's just a flesh wound.
It's just a flesh wound. Yeah. So
just a scratch.
Yeah, for a minute, I thought, oh man, wouldn't this be interesting? Is that Shane was bit, and it was just kind of a little scratch, and he's going to slowly just get more and more unhinged and start to go crazier and crazier until it culminates with him, turning into a zombie. And then I kind of figured, then obviously what happens. But just for that 1 minute, I really thought that might have been what was going on.
Was it at this point when he goes into the shaving of his head, intercut with what actually happened?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is where we go back to him and Otis at the school. They've both got just one shot left, and they discuss that they're both maybe 20 feet away from the zombies. They're barely keeping ahead of them. They're out of breath. They're both limping. And Shane says, after they discuss that they're down to their last bullet, has them save the last one. He says he's sorry. Shane does, and he shoots Otis in the leg. Otis tries to fight back and attack Shane. And this is where he rips out some of his hair and gives Shane that wound to the head. Shane is able to break his hold and knock him down. He grabs the other backpack and he leaves Otis to be devoured by the zombies. It's a particularly bloody and gross devouring. We haven't seen one quite that bad, maybe since the horse, honestly, from season 1. And like Brad said, we intercut between this and him shaving his head, and then we end again with the same shot that we kind of opened with in the end of that first scene, where he looks into the mirror in a very creepy, and I'll use the word you did before, unhinged. He has a very unhinged look in his eye as the episode ends.
Yeah, well, this is what I want to say. I'm so on the fence still with motive here. When you think about the situation, there's no other move. If he, what would be the more noble thing to do? Sacrifice yourself and let Otis make it? Otis would never make it.
I'd say they both have about the same amount of chance, and Otis has medical training.
Otis has
firearms
much
training.
less
He's a
chance.
valuable guy to have around.
Cardio, dude. Otis is not going to make it if Shane gives himself up.
They're both running at the same speed.
I can't imagine that he'd be able to keep up that pace as long as Shane would, though.
Shane's in way better shape than Otis is. I mean, cut off each one of their legs, Shane's going to make it out much more probable than Otis making it out.
Otis would have already made it out if he hadn't stopped to save Shane's life.
But that's neither here nor there, because
Sure
there's still no. That's not going to make Shane say, well, I'm going to give up. Everybody's going to die because I have to sacrifice myself now, so Fat Boy can run 10 more feet before he gets eaten. That's not going to change where you're going now. The motive is still kind of unclear in my head, because when I look back at the conversation that Lori had with Shane and she said stay, when I saw this, I totally went, this bastard did this just to get back in with Lori. So
I didn't think that at all.
I'm kind of on the fence with why he actually did it, but I really think it's the only move. If he gives himself up, there's no way that Otis is making it.
I think Shane has too much self-preservation in him to give himself up, regardless. I think we saw that when he left Rick in the hospital. I mean, if Shane was truly selfless, he would have found a way to get Rick out with him in the hospital, but he didn't. He knew that there was no way he was going to make it out alive if he tried to get Rick out. So he did what was best for Shane.
Yeah, and I mean, I was just going to say, go back to the chicken coop story. Shane's mission was to bring the meds back and be the hero with Lori and Carl and everybody. So he's going to do whatever it takes to make sure that he does that.
Yes. Yeah, and that's where I was going with the second half of that is Shane is not going to let, I think more specifically Carl even than Lori, he's not going to let Carl down. He is not going to be the one responsible for that boy dying because he couldn't get back.
And I think he feels that way for more than one reason. He doesn't want to be ostracized from the group more than he is, regardless of the fact that he has been talking about leaving. And he's come to love Carl as if he was his own kid.
And I think he's starting to feel like he's reconnecting with Rick. I mean, the two of them. I mean, he basically had that conversation with Rick in the last episode of, you need to pull it together. You need to get it together. You gotta lift yourself up. And Rick responded positively to that. So I think he's feeling, even if he's still on the outs with Lori, if he maintains his good with Rick and saves Carl's life, that he's in a good spot. So I think there are a lot of motivations going on for Shane there. And I think some of it is, like we said, he's coming unhinged.
I think it's really portraying Shane as he's a selfish guy. And I mean, we all know what it feels like to be selfish. And if we were honest with ourselves, we're probably more selfish than we want to be as human beings. But this selfishness, I think, is really going to end up making for some incredibly awful consequences for Shane down the line. May not be related to this particular event, but I think one of these days his selfishness is going to be his undoing, regardless of how it is. I think Shane's going to die because of something Shane did selfish. That's my feeling. I had noticed on Twitter, John, some of our followers were asking, do you think Shane shot Otis as revenge for him shooting Carl? And I didn't get one bit of that. I think it came down to it's either this guy or me. And if
insert pretty much anybody else for Otis, and Shane makes the same decision.
Oh, absolutely. And I'd go so far as to say he would have done it to Rick. If it was Rick, he would have done it to Rick.
He would have done it to Rick in the school.
Yeah. He is definitely the most interesting character. Which, like you, Russ, if you had told me last season that I would be more interested in Shane than Daryl or Rick, even because I think Rick in the comic is just one of the coolest characters ever to be in a comic book, but I would have said you're crazy, just like you. So this is really, really interesting. The Shane story is the only thing that kept me from being tremendously bored with this episode. And I know I've said it a few times, but yeah, it really makes me as a human being uncomfortable to admit out loud that I'm more interested in Shane as a character than anybody else, because Shane is not. This is what I get. Shane is not a good guy. He's a selfish guy who knows how to act and make people think what he wants to think. So this is only going to make for interesting situations down the line.
I want to think that he didn't plan it the whole time, but the whole how many bullets you got left thing. I mean,
well, I didn't get the idea that he was planning it either, but I think when it came down to it and he realized we're not getting out of this, how can I make the most of this situation? This also makes me want to comment on something Jordan said earlier, and I can answer this question as far as how you feel. What do you think the title of this episode means, Jordan? Save the last one. You're thinking it meant save the last bullet in the gun. And I posed this on Twitter earlier, and we had some people say that. We had some people say that they thought it meant saving Carl. They thought some other people thought it meant Shane saving himself. I don't know. I just kind of wondered where your school of thought was on what that title of the episode referred to, because I think it has multiple meanings actually.
I think it confirms that he planned it and he was saving the last bullet to shoot Otis with.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I definitely think it was a bullet as well. I mean, I could see how you could make something else work, but I think Occam's razor says that the simplest explanation of saving one bullet, which is a horror trope, which is an action movie trope, I think that just works.
Who's Occam?
Occam's razor? Never heard that before?
No, why do you throw these highbrow legalese terms at me?
It's not really legalese terms.
I've heard that before, Bradley.
You and your arguendo.
Brad, the argument basically is if you go to sleep right now and you wake up and there's snow on the ground, there could be 100 explanations. Someone could have gotten a whole bunch of snow, shipped it in, dumped it on your front lawn. It might not actually be snow. It could be baking powder. Or, no, granted, not in Texas, but in other parts of the world, the simplest explanation is, hey, while I was asleep, it snowed. And so you can say, yeah, I can come up with other explanations, but the simplest one is most of the time going to be the correct one.
If it's yellow and it quacks, it's probably a duck.
Gotcha.
Not a Labrador retriever.
Let's do ratings. Brad, why don't you start? Because I have a feeling yours will be the lowest.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it 3 and a quarter. I don't remember what I gave last.
Last week was a 2, 2.5.
Yeah, this was only marginally better. I'm gonna give it a 3. I'm with Russ. They need to step it up a bit.
Russell?
I will give this a 3.5. And if it wasn't for the Rick bits, this would probably be a 4 easily. I think the Shane stuff and the Daryl Andrea stuff, and even the Dale Andrea stuff, and of course Glenn and Maggie, that's what really tipped the scales towards the higher rating for me. So yeah, 3.5.
I'm slightly higher. I was in the 3.5 range for all the things that Russ just said, but the ending brings it to a 4 for me, mostly because it really felt like a Walking Dead comic book ending. Last page of the trade, holy crap moment, twist that you didn't see coming. I really appreciated that. It really felt like, I was reading a Kirkman comic book, which is awesome. So that brings it to a 4 for me.
Yeah, you convinced me. It deserves a solid 3.5 for me.
Too late.
Simply,
it's too late.
It's never too late. Simply for the ending, which I honestly did not see coming, and I love that kind of 2x4 to the head.
I really like this episode. I understand where you're coming from, Brad and Russ, and quite a lot of people I've seen on Twitter and the Facebook group and other places saying that the pacing is too slow for them in general, that it needs to be sped up.
It's not even the pacing.
However, to me, that is pretty much exactly the pacing I expect from Walking Dead, be it the show or the comic. Okay, expand.
It's not even the pacing. It's the type of pacing, if that makes sense. I mean, I enjoy the strong character moments in the book. Like I said, it doesn't have to be all about a zombie around every corner. But I think it's just too much of the same. It's too much, like John said, Rick sitting around moping and doing nothing. I think if we would have more varied character moments or something else going on, that the slower pace would not bother me as much.
Okay, and like I said, I mean, for me, this feels like The Walking Dead. This feels like what I expect going in. There was nothing in this episode that I didn't like, quite honestly. There was nothing that was spectacular, except for that ending, but there was nothing that I could point to saying, I didn't like that line delivery or that scene or that characterization. I'm going to give it a solid 4.5. I really did enjoy this one quite a bit, and I hear next week is even better, but we will certainly see. I'm sure there'll be a wide variety of opinions as usual. Maybe I'll hate next week's. Who knows? But yeah, I really did enjoy this one. This feels like what Walking Dead is supposed to be to me.
Well, if we go to the Twitter and the Facebook, we also ran a little poll. We've been putting up a poll on Twitter and Facebook to try to keep all of the comments in one place. 44% of the people were 4.5, with 28% giving it a 4, and 12% each for 5 and 3.5. So the lowest vote was 3 busters with 4%. So pretty much 4.5, 4 were your most common, couple of 5s, couple of 3.5s. So pretty much in that range. Pretty positive again. I have some Twitter ratings real fast. Lynn gave it a 4 out of 5. New Levels of Darkness. Luthen gave it a 3.5. The Sophia stuff is getting old. They need to find her quick. Soda, 3.5. Would have given it less, but the idea of Shane wearing Otis's pants made me bump it up higher. He's quite a character, that Soda. Courtney says the whole, again, the Sophia stuff is old. They need to find her next week or not. She did give it a 4, so she liked the show. Liz gave it a 4.25. She says Shane may have ultimately saved Carl, but she still wants to punch him in the face. Caesar gave it a 5 out of 5. Summer gave it a 4.5. Aquaboy, 4 Busters out of 5. So again, a lot of real positive stuff. The Twitter people are pretty happy. Our buddy Aaron from the Out Now podcast gave it a 4.5. Adds plenty of layers to Shane's character. Solid blend of character and zombies. Good as it has gotten this season. So once again, the Twitter people are happy, so that's cool. A couple of other interesting tweets that I just want to mention quickly. The Wow Sheep said, "Love your podcast and The Walking Dead. Can't wait to get it illegally tomorrow morning. Greetings from the Netherlands." So how cool is that? Thank you for that tweet. Yes,
we don't
condone that.
We don't condone illegally obtaining copies of the show, by the way.
Agreed. We were talking about how they had electricity on the farm, and Soda said, "I think they have zombies in giant hamster wheels." So that was lovely. Tiny Rubber Robot says, "If they both limped on and got caught, there's no way Carl gets his meds. That was rough, but he probably saved Carl's life." Of course, referring to the ending. And the last one from Soda, we're giving Joe Jantz major props tonight, but he said, "Shaving your head does not make up for being an a-hole."
It didn't work in my instance.
Exactly. So we want to thank everybody on the Facebook and the Twitter. I got a bunch of other. So many people participate that way, which is awesome. Mick gave it 4 Busters. Michelle gave it 4.5. I mean, I can go on and on reading Twitters and Facebooks, but we're already going long tonight. But we do appreciate everybody that participates that way. We have a great time tweeting during the show. A lot of the cast members join in, which is a lot of fun. And
I actually kind of woke up out of my slumber and
yes,
got in on the action.
Russ is now following the WD TV podcast Twitter, so that's awesome.
I'm actually tweeting. I think I've tweeted more during that show than I did in the 2+ years I've had a Twitter account. So.
Yeah, the live reactions are fun. I just want to tell everybody, because there were a couple people that mentioned this. If you really, we do the best we can without spoiling, but stay off of Twitter. And if you didn't see last night's show, don't jump into the Facebook group at 8 in the morning the next day, because that's all that anybody's going to be posting about, and it's impossible. We want to have the conversations after it airs and stuff. So you might want to just hang on until if you're a DVR watcher and whatever. Wait till you caught up.
I will try and not spoil in the actual thread title. So shame on me.
Well, it's funny. As you guys know, it'll be painful for me to bring this up, but last night, Sunday Night Football, was the Dallas Cowboys versus the Philadelphia Eagles. So I elected to watch that, even though I knew what was going to happen. I still watched it because I'm a diehard Cowboys fan. And I recorded The Walking Dead with the intention of watching it after the game. I get email notifications from Facebook, among which are the postings in the Walking Dead Facebook group. And my phone buzzed while I was watching the Cowboys game. And I got an email, and the subject, or the thing was Facebook, and it was Russ L. saying, "I think there's more to Otis's death than we're being led to believe or whatever." And I was like, well, dang it, why did I check that? Because now I know Otis is dead, and I haven't even seen the daggum episode yet. So I fell victim to that also.
I will refrain from that in the future. I apologize to all.
Well, you know what? John's right. If you want to be surprised, just exercise a little willpower and stay off of Twitter, stay off of Facebook. Don't check your email until you see the thing. It's not that hard, and yet it happened to me. So it's not. I think if somebody gets spoiled, it's their own fault.
Jordan, do we have a title for next week's show?
Okay, so next week's episode is called Cherokee Rose, and the blurb says Shane makes a deadly sacrifice. The group tries to hang on between living to die or dying to live. So not a whole lot there, but I'm sure there'll be zombies.
Oh, there will be zombies.
Oh yes, there will be blood.
Jordan, why don't you tell everybody about the cool thing you got to do, and then we'll wrap this one up.
Sure. Well, like I mentioned 20 minutes into the episode, you can, if you send us an email or a voicemail saying what you think happened to Sophia, what happened to her, where she is now, etc. And if you're right, you can win Volume 1 or Volume 2 of the trade paperback signed by Robert Kirkman, creator of The Walking Dead, and Chris Hardwick, the host of AMC's Talking Dead. And the way I came across those was I was invited, Walking Dead TV was invited to an event in New York hosted by Hyundai Gloucester, and they were going to have Chris Hardwick and Robert Kirkman there for an impromptu Q&A, which was a really cool event. And they asked, hey, is anyone in the area who can come up? I was the only one who was, so I went up. There's going to be an article going up on hhwlod.com pretty soon that's got pictures and a whole description of what was there. Needless to say, it was awesome. Even aside from the Walking Dead stuff, it was one of the coolest experiences and nights I've ever had. Tricked out cars, open bar, lots of cool arts, video games, 3D TVs, all kinds of cool stuff. And I got to sit in the front row of a group of about 100 people there to see Robert Kirkman and Chris Hardwick. I got to ask the first question. I won a couple prizes. I'm going to be giving some of them away. I also got some of the stuff signed. Like I said, volumes 1 and 2 of the trade paperback. Got them signed right there by Chris Hardwick and Robert Kirkman. Those could be yours if you send in your contest entry, and we'd love to give them away. So, like I said, check out hhwlod.com in the next few days, and there should be an article up there about this whole event. It was a lot of fun, a lot of cool stuff going on there. And of course, I want to give a big shout out, a big thank you to Mr. Jason Crotty from, he was with Remix Lab, that was, and Hyundai Gloucester, that was the group that put on the event. I want to thank him a super ton for inviting me out there. I got to talk to him for a few minutes. Real nice guy. This was a really cool event. They're actually going to be going around the country to several different cities. New York was the first one, I think on LA, Las Vegas, a couple others. If you get a chance to go out there, I don't think they're going to have Walking Dead stuff at each one, but regardless, it was awesome. So if you get a chance to go out there, do yourself a favor and do so. It was awesome. And that's all I have to say about that.
Last thing before we wrap this one up, Jordan. Again, our awesome episode synopsis came from Sarah Simmons, and she writes for picktainment.com, Picktainment, and they do recaps and reviews for tons of TV stuff. So we want to thank her for linking us to it, and we'll probably be using them from now on.
Yeah, that was a big help, so thank you very much for posting that. Very cool. So that is it for the end of this very long show. You can send us a voicemail at 516-468-7912. You can send us an email, comments at walkingdeadtv.com. Don't forget to check out Brad Show, Half Hour Wasted on Mondays, and the rest of our show, Legion of Dudes, on Thursdays, all at hhwlod.com, and the brand new Out Now with Aaron and Abe, which talks about every week's new release movies. Don't forget to check out forumforgeeks.com, the home of the Walking Dead TV or the Walking Dead Podcast Network.
Don't forget to mention Russ's new show too.
Oh yes, of course.
Tech
the brand
Dudes,
new
where
Tech Dude show.
they talk about digital watches. Is that right, Russ?
Calculator watches, right?
Close, yeah. It's very close to that.
The brand new pocket protectors that are out, code, reel-to-reel tape stuff.
Commodore
I
64.
gotta hear this episode. Check out the Facebook groups for Legion of Dudes, Half Hour Wasted, Walking Dead TV, Media Minutes, Out Now with Aaron and Abe on Facebook. Just do a search for those. And follow us on Twitter at WDTV Podcast and at HHWLOD_network. And so until there's no more room in hell and a dead walk the earth, remember, you don't have to run faster than a zombie. You just have to run faster than the guy on your right. Have a good day. Have a good week.
Have a good time. I want a little more umfatty this time, Russell.
Yeah, once again with feeling.
Once more.
She didn't get it in her mouth. I mean, that's all I can think of.
Are we going to have to beep that?
We probably wouldn't have had to had you.
Until now.
Well, I just cut that
How about a
part out.
blooper? How about a blooper? Blooper?
There.
Everybody, blooper, good? Okay.
Sure.
Can you guys hear me?